The Puma Velocity Nitro 3, a no-nonsense, versatile, go anywhere, do anything trainer. A quiet shoe that some might call boring, but it doesn't need to shout with endless tech and endless foam. It protects your foot, but it disappears on your foot, and most importantly, it forces you to do the work in training, which in my opinion is exactly what a daily trainer should be. I've already made an initial impressions video about this shoe. I'll put a link in the description and a card on the screen if you want to go check that out. But in this video, I'm going to go through how I've been using this shoe. And as you can see from the intro, I've been using this shoe as a no-nonsense daily trainer. And it is maybe one of the best ones I've ever used for that purpose. Now, a couple follow-ups from stuff I talked about in my initial impressions video. I talked a lot about this feeling like a very long shoe. The last felt very long to me. Now, I also talked about this in my initial impressions, that this shoe took me about 40K or about 25 miles to break in, where the foam sort of softened up and it became a little bit more flexible to run in. Prior to that, it was a little firm, a little harsh. This is a supercritical TPEE foam, very similar to Lightstrike Pro from Adidas, with an EVA carrier foam underneath it. And it does take some break-in period. So depending on your weight and how strong of a runner you are, you're probably going to need about 30 to 50K to break this shoe in. But once you do, it becomes very compliant, very nice to run in. I will also say after about another 40K, so about the 80K or 50 mile mark, this shoe pretty much completely molded to my foot. And once that happened, any kind of length that I felt in this package was completely gone. This shoe was very compliant to my foot, wrapped around my foot. The insole and the footbed of this shoe really molded to the bottom of my foot, and it gave me absolutely no problems, and any sort of length or voluminous fit that this felt like initially was completely gone. Another thing I complimented this shoe about in my initial impressions, and I'm going to compliment it even more now 100 miles in, is the traditional geometry. Now, I'm not going to call this exactly a fully traditional geometry because there is a little bit more toe rocker in the forefoot of this shoe, and it does roll just a little bit more than a traditional shoe would have maybe 10 years ago. But this is definitely much more towards the traditional direction than the modern, high stack, heavily rockered shoe that just does all the work for you and keeps rolling you forward. This is not that. This is a beautiful geometry, and I think the Puma design team did an excellent job of just making a very versatile but very basic shoe that just gets out of the way and lets you get on with the run. I also want to compliment this shoe for how versatile I think it is for any type of foot strike. Some shoes have an emphasis for forefoot strike or a heel strike, sometimes a midfoot strike, but this shoe, because of the geometry, because of the amount of foam, the nitro foam being evenly distributed through the heel, midfoot, and forefoot, any foot strike is going to do really well in this shoe. When I run as a heel striker in this shoe, it's very supportive. It captures my foot, brings me into the forefoot, and lets me toe off. Midfoot is nice and cushioned. This is a firm ride, but it's a very cushioned ride. And forefoot is very energetic. And the more force I put into the ground as a forefoot striker, the more this shoe wants to get up and go, which is really remarkable for a daily trainer because, again, that adds to the versatility that is in this package. And when I talk about versatility, I think that is vitally important for a daily trainer. And a daily trainer, in my mind, has to tick a bunch of boxes to be considered a viable daily trainer. It is a shoe that I should be able to put in my bag, go away for the weekend, and run anywhere on any surface for any type of run. A daily trainer should do the easy running, should do the recovery running. It should do any workout I want to put it through. It should do a long run. It should do a tempo or a threshold run, and I should be able to race in it. Now, it's probably going to do certain things better than others there, but it should be able to do all of those. Additionally, I should be able to run on any surface, road, trail, track, anything else, treadmill, really anything. And it should excel in all of those different formats. So a daily trainer needs a few things from me. It needs this more traditional geometry. Again, I don't want a lot of foam. I don't want a lot of rocker because that just gets in the way of all that versatility. It needs to have a full rubber outsole, which this one does. Now, a lot of people have talked about Puma Grip, how great Puma Grip is. I enjoy Puma Grip. I think the rubber compound is very good, but I think what sets this outsole apart is the tread pattern. This is a very versatile tread that has lasted really well. There's a little wear on my right foot right here on the lateral forefoot edge. I'm really rough on shoes here, but this outsole performs across the board everywhere. So this truly is that daily trainer I can put in my bag and go away and run on anything, anywhere, at any time. And that is a must for a daily trainer, and this excels at all of it. Now, to put that to the test, I did a run that I have wanted to do for, I don't know, about three and a half years, really since I've lived in Taipei. Now, where I live here in Taipei, I have access to road, flat along the rivers. I have a lot of hills, mountains. I also have a lot of trail running, and I actually have a track about, I don't know, half a kilometer away. However, it requires about 200 meters of climbing plus a lot of technical trail running to get, or it requires about a 10K road run with about 5K of that all uphill. So it's an oddly placed track, but it's one I've always wanted to run to. So what this run was piecing all of that together. I started on my normal sort of training route that I always do, took me around my normal training route, which is rolly hills, but then I went off onto some trails. Now I entered my trail group and I had a lot of steep technical climbing on what turned out to be a fairly muddy day. I got up that hill. The shoe did exceptionally well on that technical muddy terrain, went through some of my rolling trail terrain, got through some more technical stuff, some rock garden stuff, some rocky descents, and then one final sort of rock garden climb up to the track, down into the track, did 2 laps of the track, and then finished with going down a very wet, mossy road that's kind of always wet, concrete as well, back into the city, then back around to home. Not the longest run, it was under 10K, but I touched on every single surface. And I've wanted to do this run for a long time. However, I've just never really had a shoe to do it. I've had shoes that will do the road or the trail section really well, maybe one that will do both of those okay, but then I would get to the track and it wouldn't do the track at all. I've had shoes that will do the trail section really well and they'll do okay on the road, but they won't do the track at all. And I could probably pick out a few shoes that would do really well on the track, but would be a complete disaster on the trail, would do okay on the road. So it was always trying to find that right middle ground. But the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 really was that shoe, and I thought the best way to test it would be to see how it performed for that type of run. And this shoe excelled across the board. In fact, the biggest surprise for me with this shoe is between those 3 conditions, road, trail, and track, I actually prefer this shoe on the trail and the track over the road. Now the road section, as I said, it's very rolly hills. I know the shoe's going to do really well. The majority of the 100 miles I put into the shoe have been road running. Most of it's been flat along the rivers, but I have done a lot of hill work in this shoe and just run hills. This is a great shoe to run hills, and especially, again, the traditional geometry for hills just puts a lot of emphasis on you, allows you to get up on your toes, really dig in and do those climbing training runs. Did it great. Once I entered the trail, though, I was unsure how well this shoe would do. I knew the Puma Grip would do well, but I wasn't prepared for how well this shoe did on trail. And I think it's a couple things. Obviously, it's the outsole, the Puma Grip, and this grid pattern. But I think the firmness of this shoe, the firmness of the foam, works really well for trail running because there's no rock plate in this shoe. This isn't a trail shoe. And I'm running over a lot of rock gardens that have a lot of rocks that will come up and greet your foot. But the firmness of this shoe definitely protects you from those rocks. Much more than, say, a Pegasus would, because the Pegasus is a softer shoe, a little bit softer, but it also has the airbags. And airbags and rocks on trail don't necessarily go together. But this shoe did really well on those technical rocky sections. Even with the mud, this shoe caked in with mud. And I will say, this little exposed piece of nitro here on the bottom, this did get filled up with mud, and I could feel that, but again, for grip, this shoe shed mud pretty well. I was shocked how well this shoe did on trail. especially technical trail. It was not what I expected, to the point where I'd actually recommend this to be a good road to trail type option, or door to trail type option. Now, if you're going to run trail, dedicated trail running, you probably should buy a dedicated trail shoe. But if you're mostly a road runner who wants to explore some local trails, this is a great option. This is better than any trail shoe like a Nike Pegasus Trail for that option, because it's going to do the road running really well and it's really competent on the trails, whereas something like a Nike Pegasus Trail is going to do trails okay and it's not that great on road either, at least compared to this shoe. But then I got down from the trail and I got onto the track, and that's where this shoe really came alive. Now, it was a super hot day. I was really exposed in the sun by the time I got to the track, and I only did 2 laps. I only did 800 meters on the track, but I did a couple of them pretty fast, and I was noticing I was getting into my 5K and beyond pace in this shoe quite easily on the track. Now that's after, a lot of road and technical trail running. Here I am on the track on this shoe and it's doing exceptionally well, to the point where I would probably bring this to a track for a track workout. Maybe not doing like 200s or 400s, but if I'm doing 800s or 1600s, or I'm going to do a 5K on the track, this would be a really great option. And I think it shows its versatility for that. And then to close out the run, going down that really windy, kind of wet, mossy concrete path that never gets any sun and it's constantly always wet. Everything's slippy on that road, essentially. No problems with this. The Puma grip did really well. The outsole did really well. By that time off the track, the mud had cleared out of the shoe. Absolutely no problems. By the time I got to the bottom, I'm back on my roads, stuff I've run this shoe on many, many times. And I got home and it was absolutely outstanding. This shoe excelled across every one of those conditions, and it really cemented itself as probably one of the best daily trainers I've ever run in. There are some heavy hitters coming out in the daily trainer space in 2024, especially the more traditional geometry, slightly lower stack, I would say sub 27 mil in the forefoot daily trainer space. The Adidas SL2, the Nike Pegasus 41, the Adidas Supernova Rise, and obviously the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. I'm going to be putting these 4 shoes head to head on this channel with initial impressions, 100-mile reviews for the other 3 shoes, a little bit longer with a couple of those shoes, and a ton of versus videos. And I mean a lot of versus videos comparing all of those shoes in many different ways, because I want to get to the bottom of which one of those 4 shoes is going to be the best daily trainer of 2024. But right now, we're starting at a very, very high bar of this shoe, and it's going to be really hard to beat the versatility of the shoe, but I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how those shoes compare to this one. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you find this content useful, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.